Hey guys, and welcome back to the cookie jar. Today we are doing the third recipe out of the Lemon Meringue Pie Murder. It is called the Walnuttoes. I think I'm saying that right. It's paid in these 2 pages. So the first thing I'm going to start off saying is that it says this recipe has to chill for 4 hours or overnight. So that is a pretty big gap time. I think it's probably the longest that we've had. I'm gonna make it today and I'll bake it off tomorrow just because 4 hours is a really long time for in between. The things you're gonna need is 2 cups of chocolate chips, a 12-ounce bag. It doesn't specify, so I'm gonna use semi-sweet. 1.5 cups of brown sugar, 3/4 cup of butter, that's 1.5 sticks, 4 eggs, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 cups of flour, not sifted, 2 cups finely chopped walnuts, and approximately 1/2 cup additional white sugar in a small bowl. There are a couple of notes. The first one is this is messy, wear thin plastic gloves if you wish. If dough becomes too warm between rollings, return it to the refrigerator. A dough you're probably going to want to work pretty quickly with or refrigerate it between batches. It does say that it gives you 8 to 10 dozen depending on cookie size, and the anecdote is Dolores says these cookies taste like the Walnutto caramel she loved as a child. She also told me that she likes the cookies better because they don't pull out her fillings. So I guess it's going to be like a walnutty caramel cookie, which sounds really good actually. So I'm excited for these. Everything's laid out in the kitchen, so let's get in there and get started. So here we have everything we're gonna need to make these, including the sugar for later. First thing we're doing is we're gonna take the 2 cups of chocolate chips with the 1.5 cups of butter, and we're gonna throw these in the microwave on high for 2 minutes. So what we wanna do now that it's come out of the microwave, it says to stir it until it is smooth. Now, I'm not sure if you're mixing it entirely or just getting the chocolate to not be chip forms. Now that we've got this smoothed out, next thing we are going to do is add in the 1.5 cups of brown sugar, and we're going to get that mixed up. Now it says to let it cool, and it is actually really warm, so I think maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes. You know, I'll let it sit and come down to room temperature before we start adding in the eggs. Okay, so it's cooled down enough that the eggs won't scramble. So it does actually say to add them in one at a time. So this is actually one of the first cookie recipes that's not having us scramble them with a fork. All right, now we're going to add the 2 teaspoons of vanilla, the 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and the 1 teaspoon of salt, and get that all nice and mixed. Now we're going to add the 2 cups of flour. The last thing to add in, of course, is the 2 cups of walnuts. It is very wet, so I can easily see why they want it to chill for a while. It's almost got a fudge-like consistency right now. This is what it looks like. So now we're just gonna cover this up and put it in the fridge until we bake it off tomorrow. Hey guys, so it is the next day. Our dough has been refrigerating for hours now. That's what it looks like. We have our oven preheating to 350. So we're going to scoop up our balls, get them nice and round, roll them in our sugar, our 1/2 cup of sugar, which this does not seem like enough sugar to roll all of this. I'm thinking we're gonna use a cup to maybe 1.5 cups, depending on how much this makes. Once we get them all rolled out, obviously we'll count and see how many we get, and then they're gonna go in the oven for 12 minutes at 350. It says to let them cool on the sheets for only a minute. Normally it's 2, but this one says just a minute, no more than. And then remove them to the wire racks. It says if you leave them on the cookie sheets too long, they'll stick. So that's probably why it cautions only a minute. We are using the matte, so greased sheets for this cookie. So let's get started. I might have to let this sit out for a minute, because it's definitely hard and fudge-like. There's the oven. But this is what it looks like. The last time we had a cookie like this, I broke my scooper, so I'm nervous. I don't want to break another one. We are flattening them out too. Once we get them on the sheets, it says to flatten them out. This definitely gives off truffle vibes. Okay, so here's our first try. I did stop rolling them because it doesn't really seem like it's, when you push them down, they go anywhere. So it just seemed with the scooper, you get a flat base anyway. So I think that's how we're gonna leave those. All right, so I'm just gonna finish getting the rest of them so we can get a count, and I'll see you in a second. All right, we just finished rolling them up. There are 6 trays, which is 72 cookies, I believe. They were slightly messy. They weren't terrible, but they definitely warm up the longer you're messing with it. So we finally finished baking all the cookies. Okay, there's the back and the front. They're chewy. I don't really get a caramel flavor to them. There's a deep walnut taste to it. It's a good cookie, but it's got a really good chocolatey walnut taste to it. And it's just a nice mix of chewy with just enough crunch. They're not overly sweet, which obviously I use the semi-sweet, so that's probably a part of it. And I like the walnuts, and I could add a little crunch in there. Overall, it's a decent cookie. It's a good cookie. It's something different. It'll work any time of the year. Other than that, there's nothing really stand out amazing about it. It's not like melt in your mouth amazing. It's just a regular cookie. It's chocolate, it's walnuts. Next week we are doing the cinnamon crisps, another cookie. I can't for the life of me think of what kind of cookie it would be. Maybe a spicier snickerdoodle, maybe? I don't know. Join us next week and we will find out. Have a good week, guys.